Joining me now is Mick, a retired Major General with the Australian Army and former commander of the Australian Defence College. He's also the author of War Transformed: The Future of 21st Century Great Power, Competition and Conflict. Thanks for being with us. So when the Russians say they're now focusing on eastern Ukraine, yet they continue to batter other parts of the country, including some targets around where we are right now in western Ukraine, do you think they're just plain lying? And if so, what's the ultimate goal here?
Hi, Hala. Well, I don't think we can ever take at face value the briefing by a Russian general that gives us an update on the situation. The political value of Kyiv is still high to both the Russians and the Ukrainians. So the Russians aren't going to give up on taking Kyiv, but they will probably seek to batter it into submission from long distance using artillery and rockets rather than a direct attack. The east is a different proposition. I think the Russians will probably reinforce their troops there and seek to make more gains on the ground in the Donbas region.
Yeah. Are they trying to sort of split this country in two, as some have some have come to that conclusion based on their actions, that they couldn't take Kyiv, they couldn't take the whole country and blitz their way into the capital, and so they're going to try to have an occupied and non-occupied situation on the ground? Do you believe that maybe is the aim here?
That is an interesting proposition, and it looks like the Russians might be able to achieve that, particularly if they're able to take all of Ukrainian territory to the east of the Dnieper. Certainly, if they're able to seize Dnipro and the areas east of that, we are set up for a potential future where there is an east and west Ukraine like there is a north and South Korea.
Yeah, and that would be really a disaster for the civilians living in those areas. Do you have any hope for these talks that are taking place in Turkey? Because we're starting to hear rumblings from President Zelensky himself that perhaps there is an acceptance that in order to bring this carnage to an end, there has to be some pronouncement to the effect of, yes, we will accept a neutral status. What do you think of that?
Well, I think if both sides are still talking, I'm still encouraged. I mean, the only solution to this war is a political one, so they have to keep talking. The fact that President Zelensky has said they will be a non-nuclear, potentially neutral, is some kind of progress, although Ukraine gave up all the nuclear weapons it had after the Cold War. Being neutral and also having security guarantees will be an interesting balancing act for Ukraine, and how Ukraine and Russia are able to achieve that out of these negotiations remains to be seen.
Right, and also how do you trust Russia? I mean, obviously these security guarantees were supposed to be in place before Russia launched this unprovoked attack. What about the staying power of the Russian military here? This is taking a lot longer than they had hoped. We're hearing reports, and they're taking huge losses in terms of troops. We're hearing reports of low morale, even in some cases of soldiers and troops deserting their posts. We've seen all these images of Ukrainian farmers dragging Russian tanks across their fields. Can they sustain this in the longer term?
Well, the fact is, some of these things we're seeing and hearing are features of every war. Every conflict features these kind of behaviours from soldiers on all sides. But I think the unique dimension we're seeing out of the Russians here is a large proportion of the Russian soldiers were lied to. They weren't told that they were going to Ukraine, and they were certainly not given good purpose for going in. That has a massive impact on morale. It has a huge impact on the cohesion of units. And frankly, it makes soldiers not really want to fight under leaders that have lied for them. So the Russians are in big trouble when it comes to manpower. If they are going to reinforce, it's going to take them a long time to generate the tens of thousands of soldiers that they might need.
And finally, the Ukrainians have, and many members of parliament and other officials have told me over the last several weeks, look, if NATO is not willing to enforce a no-fly zone, allow us to enforce our own no-fly zone. We need anti-aircraft weaponry. We need fighter jets. How much of a difference would it make if Western countries did supply those weapons to the Ukrainians?
Well, the Ukrainians have proved themselves to be a very professional military, and it's hard to see how a few extra aircraft is going to escalate the situation. My sense is if they've asked for a few extra aircraft and a few air defence systems, we should be providing it to them. NATO has thousands and thousands of these systems sitting there not being used at the moment. If they can help Ukraine hold on and get a better position at the bargaining table, perhaps that's something that NATO should consider.
Major General Mick Ryan, thank you as always for joining us live from Brisbane, Australia.